Welcome to the show, the League Winners Roundtable, starring your friendly host, William Spencer. Yeah, they dragged me a long way from my podcast. So I'm in here with these guys, these great guys right here. Mr. LP Cruz, the organizer, Mr. Thomas Christopher, the man behind the scenes on the leaguewinners.com website. Welcome, ladies and, well, not ladies and gentlemen. We don't have no ladies in here yet, but welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
What's up, man?
Glad to be in here talking fantasy with you guys. Mr. LP Cruz has us doing quarterback battles. So in this, our very first episode, we're going to be talking about some interesting quarterback battles that are going on in training camp as we speak. We'll be highlighting the Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots, and my favorite, the New Orleans Saints. So we're going to jump right into this episode. Mr. Cruz, would you like to lead us off into the first part?
Okay, so guys, while we're here, it's just kind of a plug going backwards. So I think maybe about a month or so ago, I dropped the article on leaguewinners.com, which you guys should check out for sure, in which I talked about 3 camp battles that were set to make or break your fantasy draft this year. And of course, that highlight the camp battles of New Orleans, New England, and Denver, of Drew Lock versus Teddy, Cam versus Mac Jones, and Taysom Hill versus Jameis Winston. So kind of putting the article on sound, kind of want to get all of us together to talk about those camp battles and talk about what we think will happen, what we think should happen, and what benefits us the most as fantasy owners and fantasy content creators. So, Will, I'll hand it back to you. You just tell me which one you want to start with first.
All right, let's get this one out of the way. This was one of my least favorites, only because of my feelings on it, and that's the New England Patriots camp battle between Cam Newton and Mac Jones. To start, if I had to pick which one I wanted to start for the season, it's got to be Cam Newton. And I know a lot of people are soured on him from what happened last year. He didn't really do too much in terms of the passing game. 8 to 10 touchdown to interception ratio. He just didn't look great last year. And, you know, you could blame it on COVID. He caught it. You could blame it on the lack of passing weapons that they did not have. But I think what they did this offseason with bringing in the 2 tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, will lend more to what Cam Newton is used to doing, hitting bigger targets across the middle by using the tight ends, kind of like his Carolina days with Greg Olsen. And I feel like those moves were made with Cam Newton in mind as opposed to Mac Jones.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Cam Newton is the guy this year as well. He was bad last year, but before he got COVID, he was actually pretty good for a fantasy football quarterback. And then after COVID, he kind of fell off the rails, so to speak, had a terrible season, had more interceptions than passing touchdowns, which is a little bit ridiculous for a quarterback. But he looks like, the established veteran in training camp right now. That, as Will alluded to, they brought in the 2 tight ends, and that fits the Cam Newton strengths and the deep ball that they can have with Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne in the red zone. And I'm going to forget this the second-year guy's name, and it's going to bug the shit out of me.
Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, yeah. So they have the weapons there for Cam to succeed, and then I think it's going to be like a gradual transition where unless he's doing really bad, we won't see Mac Jones until next year.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of wrapped it up pretty well. Even for me, I think the same things. I think with Cam Newton, it is about the middle of the field and what they want to do and establish the middle of the field. And it's weird because you kind of have to follow the money, what they decide to invest in. You invest a lot heavily in your tight ends. And that's where Cam is, like you said, the most successful over the middle with Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. I do think that leaves the receivers, and I like Kendrick Bourne as well. And I like the deep threat aspect of Nelson Aguilar, but I think that leaves them both kind of in a feast or famine situation. So if you choose to pick up one of these guys, it's hard to say what you're going to get week to week. I think that's the really difficult part. And it's kind of undetermined with Mac Jones as well. I don't have the ins and outs on all his stats from college and what he decided to target more. Like, I don't know what his target share looks like. I have no idea where he's going to favor. But it almost goes to say him being the unknown and him being what they invest in. I would assume they're going to trust the guys on the outside. I feel like they're almost mirror images in look, in personality, in talents, in preferences. They're so different. And then we haven't even talked about the running backs either. So how does this affect Damian Harris? So obviously Damian Harris is the lead running back there, and Cam, exactly. If Cam's there, then it changes a lot of things for me. So I think whoever is the starting quarterback there, if it's Cam, that's going to be sniping carries away from Damian Harris. If it's Mac Jones, you buy Damian Harris. So, but I think if I had a preference as a fantasy player, disclaimer, I don't target Patriots players in general, only because they're so fluid. You guys agree, right? I stay away. Besides Thomas's affiliations as a Jets fan.
He's like, no, I'm definitely not touching them.
Yeah, no, I'm good. But either way, I mean, for myself, I stay away from them anyway because they're so unpredictable on the offensive side. We talk about unpredictability on defense a lot in the NFL, but on offense, they can flip it just like that. So if I would prefer a person, I would say maybe Mac Jones because it helps everybody globally. But with Cam Newton, I still don't trust Cam Newton, to be honest with you.
Now, I will say one thing that you brought up about Damian Harrison. I think having Cam Newton does help Damian Harrison a little bit. One, you give him an option, you give him a passing option in Damian Harris because reports out of New England camp is that they want to get Damian Harris more involved in the offense. They're talking him up like he's going to be the number one guy. Sony Michel's in his final year with the New England Patriots. They went out and drafted Ramondre Stevenson, and you still have James White. But Stevenson's still on his rookie stage. He's still going to be learning the offense. So Harris has an upside there. As opposed to the passing work, you're probably going to end up splitting it between him and James White, but that still leaves Harris with the early down work. And you have Cam Newton, who's still not a slouch around the goal line. He had 12 rushing touchdowns last season. So you get that mobile upside with Cam. Hopefully he's better as a passer this year because of what they've given him. He could be a nice late round guy if you can target him as your QB2 or, maybe a weekly guy where the matchup looks good. So you can go out and try him out and see what happens.
I mean, I do think we get closer to the red zone, and not to your spot here, but I think as we get closer to the red zone, that does enhance the value of your tight ends. Clearly, and we watch the games out, in a similar lens where if I hold them with the read option fake, all of a sudden tight ends are wide open across the middle. So your valuation goes way up there. Again, it's the outside guys. So what they do with the outside guys, I mean, are you guys buying anything with the N'Keal Harry trade request either? Is that a thought to you guys? Is it worth mentioning to you, or you guys think it's neither here nor there?
I don't think that they're going to move him. He's been reportedly having a great camp besides the fact that he wants to be traded. And they're not really in a position to let him go because like we've already talked about, you have Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne. In my opinion, they're like, they're okay, but you don't have a deep wide receiver core as it is. You can't really afford at this point to let guys go via trade. You could probably let him walk at the end of the season and then he can find his own way. But you're not going to get anything for him in return in the trade anyway. So what's the point? I'm going to keep him. If I'm the Patriots, I keep him this year and then let him do whatever he wants to follow.
Yeah, they're not going to get that capital back in return because he was a first-round draft pick. So you might as well just hold on to him. And I mean, like as you said, like there's nobody really there. Like, yeah, they got Aguilar and Myers and all that, but those are still kind of like unproven guys. And so is Harry. So if Harry can, find a way to push through that and move up the depth chart, he ends up going from a bust to a usable piece in the offense, at least seeming in the offense that they're like going towards, the direction that offense is going towards with the two tight end sets. They don't necessarily need a really shifty guy like they used to with like a Wes Welker and a Julian Edelman.
If I can ask you guys one question to add to this real fast, one question. Who starts more games? Just prediction. Who do you say?
Cam
Newton?
Yeah, I'm going Cam too.
Okay.
If my reasoning behind it is if the Patriots playbook is that complex, like everybody says it is, Mac Jones is not going to get in if Cam Newton is doing well. If he's doing well enough and they're winning games and that defense is back to his normal self, they're not going to rush Mac Jones. There's no reason to. This is, in my opinion, this is Cam's showcase year to show that he's still a good quarterback. He can still be used in the NFL as a starting quarterback. And then next year they'll sink the offense in the offseason into Mac Jones and continue to develop him as a starting quarterback.
I have one more question. Yeah. So okay, let's pretend. So if Mac Jones is a starter, right? Let's say they name Mac Jones as a starter, and it's before, drafts are over. Who was the first player you take off the board on that offense? If Mac Jones is a starter, and if it's Cam, who then? Or are they both the same player either way?
The first player I would grab off the Patriots, Jonnu Smith. I think he's the safest guy between everybody there. My hierarchy would be Jonnu Smith, Damian Harris, and then Hunter Henry. I feel like Harris is going to, no matter what. I already wrote an article for league winners for Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, who's the tight ends to own. Smith is more dangerous in the red zone, in my opinion, and based on what I've researched, as opposed to Hunter Henry. Plus, they can use him in different ways in the offense, like out of the backfield. You've seen him take a couple carries out of the backfield with Tennessee. He's more dangerous and a little more versatile than Hunter Henry is. Hunter Henry is going to do damage and mismatches in the passing game. I think that's where the strength is going to be. But inside the red zone, I think they're going to go to Jonnu Smith. He can just do a lot of things to confuse the defense.
Tom's thoughts?
I completely agree with everything. Like, I don't have anything to add. That's exactly what my thoughts are. It's Jonnu, Damian, and then Hunter, for no matter who it is, for the same reasons.
Okay. And Damian's cheap. Like, he's a sixth round ADP right now. So he probably may fall to the 7th. That's perfect. That's a perfect opportunity to scoop a guy to be your running back 3 or your flex, and depending on how you set up your fantasy team. He's a guy that I would roll the dice on later on, especially if he slides. Like, everybody's going to be hitting wide receivers, I think, at that point. So if he slides maybe to the 7th, if he falls to the 8th, I'm definitely grabbing him. That's cheap. That's cheap for a guy who's a potential starter.
All right, last question before we move on. Taking longer than expected. I know. This one we want to get out of the way. Because last time we tried to do this, we talked about this. Tell me, where does Mac Jones rank in Dynasty? So for all the rookie quarterbacks in Dynasty, where do you have Mac Jones?
5th.
5th?
Because you got Trevor, you got Fields, Wilson, Lance, Jones. That's how I got it.
Are we missing somebody?
We probably are. I mean, that's my 5 off the top.
Yeah.
Same?
Yeah, I had him QB4 before he got picked by the Patriots, and now he's QB5 for the rookies.
I mean, the other rookies have a better opportunity. Lance is starting. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is starting for the Jaguars. We know Fields is going to be the man in Chicago as soon as Matt Nagy gets his head out of his behind and, get over the Andy Dalton thing. Wilson is starting for the Jets. It's an immediate opportunity. Trey Lance is, I think, kind of similar to the situation in the 49ers, like with Justin Fields in Chicago. But I think that they're going to rock with Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's not a bad quarterback. He just get hurt a lot. So if he goes down this year, I think that that ship is sailed. They're going to put in Trey Lance. They spent the first round pick on him, a high first round pick on him. Jimmy has to stay healthy to solidify his role here. If he plans to stay in San Fran, and if the 49ers plan to keep him, which I doubt. So he's in a similar situation as Cam Newton as he's showcasing himself for his next job. And then you got Mac Jones. He's in the back, All right. So I want to save the Saints for last. Because I talked about it a lot the last time we did this. So I'm going to be better this time around. I'm not going to take everybody's time, and it's probably why Brandon ain't here. No, I'm just playing. No, but this one is actually interesting. The Denver Broncos situation with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Now, like we did this before, and I really thought Drew Lock was going to be that week one guy, but the reports out of Denver, it's a lot closer than what I originally thought it was going to be. Drew Lock had the edge because he's been there. He knows the offense. He knows the players. He has familiarity with the wide receivers. But Teddy Bridgewater, at least from what I've read, his one big weakness has always been the deep ball. He can complete passes. He's more accurate than Drew Lock has been. But the deep ball is or pushing the ball downfield is where Teddy seems to struggle at. And they've been doing that with him in training camp. He's been hitting wide receivers for like 60, 70 yards in practice, at least on a fairly consistent basis. That it's become more of a draw situation between him and Locke. Locke's been known for using the deep ball. He's just not accurate. But now it's the window's being tightened. So if I had to pick which one I wanted to start, I would probably give the edge to Teddy Bridgewater. Now, originally I said Drew Lock because of what I stated earlier. But if Teddy is hitting that deep ball, and he's already much more accurate than Drew Lock, Drew Lock might be on the streets after this season, man. And it's crazy, but I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Because in the beginning of camp, there were reports back and forth. I remember Ben Albright saying that it was basically like a one here for Locke, a one here for Bridgewater, and it kept going back and forth. And I was like, oh shit, Drew's in trouble. And I think I said this the last time. Like, I see Teddy kind of as like the new Ryan Fitzpatrick, and where he comes in and he takes another dude's job, and then he does okay for a couple weeks, and then he kind of fizzles out a little bit, but he's not going to like lose you as much games. But he's a good game manager type of guy. He's a lot less risky than Fitzpatrick is in that regard. I was thinking that Locke was going to be the starter too, but now I don't know. I know Elway and Fangio really like Locke, but if he's not beating Teddy, then they're not going to play him.
Yeah. And Bridgewater was actually 5th in completion percentage last year, 69.1. He's not a great quarterback, but for him to be able to complete at that rate, as opposed to what Drew Lock did last year, he was hot garbage, 57.3% completion rate. The bottom of the league. And he was 35th. He had a couple more backup quarterbacks better than Drew Lock last season. So, and then reports, I've been reading some other stuff. He's been really connecting with Jerry Jeudy, and that's one of the wide receivers that they picked up in last year's draft in the first round. I didn't see it coming. Like, I really honestly thought Drew Lock had an edge. He was going to clean it up and everything. But if Teddy starts, it's Teddy's job to lose at this point. I think he's got it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said, everything. And the best way I can approach it is really approach it more like a general football observer, really. Because you guys covered everything as far as the rapport with the receivers, what he's doing down the field. You guys have covered everything. I think when I wrote the article initially, I said that Locke was actually in the lower percentile in the CPOE metric, where he ranked, like you said, 30 out of 32 quarterbacks with at least 320 snaps. So he was pretty bad as a whole last year. The way I look at it from the strict football perspective is when you look at those receivers they have, that being, and it's really over the middle too, if you think about it, guys that are actually more quicker than fast and more over the middle type of threats. So Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, the tight ends, both of them. It seems like it's all set up for a guy like Teddy to step in there and keep the offense moving and not hold them back. What I really think about when it comes to what's going on there is this staff in place, they're not on safe ground. They're not. And to be honest with you, they're kind of in an arms race right now with the rest of the division. That being the Chargers, that being the Chiefs, the Raiders. They're in a spot where they have to compete. And I think, Will, you and I talked about it as well with Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott wasn't there, we recapped the Hall of Fame game. We talked about if Dak isn't present, what happens to that offense? It's almost the same amount of talent if you look at the Denver offense. If their quarterback can't get the most out of what they have, it hinders everything you want to do, everything. And it diminishes the value of every player from a real life standpoint to a fantasy standpoint. It kills everything. And I look at Drew Lock and I say, besides age and arm strength, being young, I mean, what else does he offer you? To say Elway was right? Like, John Elway, he wants Lock for some big ego stroke. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. You already had Brock Osweiler. You already had Trevor Siemian.
Oh,
You get
God,
no more
don't
ego
bring up
stroke.
that name. Brock Osweiler. He's garbage.
But see, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how this guy has so many shots at it, and it's because his name's somewhere in the building, on a statue or on a wall somewhere. But I can't give this guy any more credit. Like, if Bridgewater's better, you go Teddy. All those guys aren't on safe ground. So you look at the metrics of the EPA side, the fantasy side, what's actually going down. It's got to be Teddy. And I think you guys said it because we talked about it last time. We were like, well, there's give and take. We don't hear any give and take. We don't hear any opposing things. Like there's no delta among the guys. If they're deadlocked and Teddy might be a little bit better, it's Teddy's job, man. I think if we own guys in fantasy for the Denver offense, we want Teddy now.
Mm-hmm. And keep it a buck, I don't feel bad for their quarterback situation because they had a chance to get Justin Fields. Look, they screwed up the draft, in my opinion. And I'm glad, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm glad that they got Micah Parsons and I like him and everything. That's cool. But they went and got Surtain and completely ignored their quarterback situation. Like, we know Drew Lock is not good. You had a high draft pick. There's no reason why you go out and you pick Surtain. And there's nothing against Surtain either. But you have a chance to get one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, and you choose corner when that's not really a weakness of your squad. Or maybe it is because they had a couple guys leave in the offseason. I don't remember. I'll go look it up.
They're set.
So why do you go Surtain? And you need a quarter. You suck at drafting quarterbacks for the last 4 years. So boom, you know what? I'm going to go pick Surtain because this guy is a lockdown corner. We know how good Surtain is, but Justin Fields comes in there and he's a starter. And you should have got fired. You should have got fired. Like at that, as soon as the pick was in, hey yo, who called that in? Yeah, you can go. You can go. Get out of here. Get out the war room.
The only pass I'll give them if their grand scheme was this, and they said to themselves, we're gonna stack our defense. We're gonna bookend the corners on the outside. We're gonna fix our safety spot. We're gonna have Chubb go crazy. We're gonna have Chubb. We're gonna have Simmons on safety. We're gonna pretty much stack our whole unit with Von Miller. Because bear in mind, they brought back Von Miller, and I think that was 100% for a while. So they brought back Von Miller. So they've stacked their defense. They're probably saying to themselves, and I think they might have been in the running for Rodgers for a time. I'm not sure that was still ever a thing. Maybe it wasn't. But who's to say? We don't know. But
listen, if I'm Green Bay, I'm not giving up Rodgers for nothing.
I wouldn't either. But hey, not all GMs are smart. Ask John Elway. Honestly, John Elway is like Michael Jordan as a GM.
I was thinking it earlier. I was like, I don't know if I should say that or not. I don't want to disrespect Mike, but he was bad in Washington? Or
someone Kwame is smiling right now.
No, Charlotte. Charlotte.
Ooh, Kwame Brown.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
Kwame's saying, see, it wasn't just me. See. All respect, Kwame. All respect, man. But I think that's one of those things where maybe their plan was if we acquire a safer and maybe Teddy was the guy the whole time. Who knows if down the road they're saying, look, Teddy is used to taking less. Because Teddy took a quote unquote discount with Carolina. So maybe they're saying to themselves, okay, we don't have to get the asset right now. Teddy's used to going for less. So maybe if we go for less with Teddy, Teddy will just be enamored to stay here for a reasonable deal while we build the rest of this thing up and circle back to quarterback later. Maybe that's the intent. I'm not saying they're that slick, but maybe they're going to luck themselves out into a good situation.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because the rest of their team, like, they're built for the Super Bowl, right? Like, they got a stacked defense. They picked up all those corners in the offseason, then drafted Surtain. Like, they were only missing the quarterback, and maybe Teddy can game manage them to a playoff berth. Maybe.
It's not unlikely. With all they have in place, I don't think it's unlikely. I think it's plausible that they could do it. It's
you're
like
in a division. You're in a division with the Chargers and the Chiefs, and the Raiders are there too. But we don't know what they're gonna do because they don't like using their wide receivers. But you got to go up against. I mean, and in that aspect, I do understand the move to pick Surtain because you got to deal with all of the wide receiver or receiving weapons from the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is a demon over there. You got Justin Herbert, and they got every wide receiver known to man over there with the Chargers and Keenan Allen. I get the move, but the quarterback position is so important that you can't. To me, you can't just game manage your way into the playoffs because once you get there, the objective then is to make a deep post run, right? You can't do that with Teddy Bridgewater. He's proven not to be able to get to that point. You need to go out and get your guy. Your defense is already established enough. You go out and get your quarterback, you lock it in, boom. Now I can really compete with guys like Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and maybe Derek Carr, maybe. But I got my guy for the future. So when they move on from Derek Carr and well, never mind. You kind of pigeonhole. You're in a position to compete better with those guys inside that division as opposed to what you have now.
Agreed. And I think that's the one glaring hole when you look at the draft class. When you look back at the draft class, that one glaring mistake was keeping them from a absolute slam of a draft. Because the rest of the draft picks, I'm looking at them, it's Devonta Williams at running back, it's Quinn Miners at guard, or wherever they place him at, Caden Stearns, Baron Browning, and Jamar Johnson. They had a fantastic draft from 1 to 5. I mean, albeit Surtain is number 9. That's kind of the, well, what were you thinking? But that's a good door prize, man. It's a really good door prize for what they were looking for. And as Cowboys fans, maybe we have a little bit of a bone to pick with that, even more so. But I think they killed it a little bit. Sprinkle a little bit of salt on that, man. A little bit of salt. That's okay. But fellas, any other thoughts on this one?
No, I'm just waiting to see how this one shakes out because, like we've already mentioned, whoever ends up getting that quarterback spot will greatly impact the fantasy value for the Denver Broncos passing options. And maybe even Devonta Williams too. I don't know what their running back situation is. I'm not sure if Melvin Gordon is there or he is there, or I know I was seeing some stuff about him maybe not showing up at camp or he wants a new deal or something like that because he's on his last year with Denver, and Devonta Williams looks like the guy that's going to replace him. So I'm not sure how that situation shakes out, and I probably got to look up and see what's going on here because Devonta Williams looking like he's going to be a nice late round running back to target too. They've been talking about him in camp. Shermer was like he's getting everything that we were throwing at him in camp. So
yeah, Javante's a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been talking him up, and it's so hard to get caught up with coach speak in the off season because it's like there's nothing else to really grab onto. But to get him later on in the draft as a rookie, one of the better running back rookies in this class, gotta look for to add him.
I mean, just think about this. We've gone through almost every spot on offense with this team. Haven't even covered offensive line, and they're pretty good too on offense. Like, the line's pretty solid as well. It's weird, man. Like, whoever wins this job will have all the Infinity Stones, all of them. no excuses, nothing. Everybody they're going to be set. It's crazy. It's crazy to think where they're at, and they could have been that much better by taking the quarterback at 9. It's incredible to think that. All right, Will, this is the one you've been waiting for, man. So the whole floor, the whole finished basement is yours, man.
All right, we're going to wrap this episode up by talking about the Saints quarterback situation between Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Now, let me get this out of the way first. What really sucks about this situation is the fact that Michael Thomas is not going to be there for a large majority of the season, because I think either way you cut it, that greatly impacts what the quarterbacks can do. But to me, at the same time, it shows you how I think it reveals more about the quarterbacks than what would be originally intended. Because we know Michael Thomas is famous for his slant route. They call him Slant Boy. I think that puts Taysom Hill in the driver's seat, because he's not going to be. I don't have faith in Taysom Hill's arm overall. He completing short passes beyond the line of scrimmage with Michael Thomas running slants all day. Yeah, he would have had the edge in camp, in my opinion. But now you don't have that. You don't have Michael Thomas. You don't have that route per se, because it's ran to efficiency with Michael Thomas. Now you're going to have to stretch the field, because if I'm a defender, if I'm an opposing defense, I'm not letting Alvin Kamara run all over me. We're going to stack the box to stop him. You got to beat us with the pass. How do you do that? You get a guy who has the ability to stretch the field with his arm and throw the ball downfield and keep you honest. I think Jameis Winston has the opportunity to do that. He hasn't been a quarterback since 2019 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But despite the fact that he threw like 30 something interceptions that year, he threw for over 5,000 yards. He threw 30 touchdowns. He's still solid. And I think he's way better than Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's versatile, and that's cool. But Jameis Winston, I think this is the guy who I want to start for my offense.
Kind of based on what you said, looking at it from a football perspective, to me, it just seems like you said about stacking the box with Taysom Hill. I would actually, as a defensive coordinator, I'm doing the exact opposite. Because when he comes into the game, that's all that ever happens. He pretty much has the box stacked based on the number and the running threat. So you're giving him these big shots down the field, these simple one-on-one reads down the field. And that's my worry about him being the quarterback full time, is that teams will figure out what's going on, and they're going to at some point treat him like Tebow. Say, okay, well, beat us, Steve. We'll drop 8, and you figure this out. 3rd and 7, you're not running this ball. So beat us when I drop 8. I think that's where you want James to take that spot. You want him to be the guy, because James can play the conventional style quarterback, has the experience, has as many throws. And I think when he went in Taysom Hill last year, I think everyone kind of fell off. I think Kamara had a dip in production as well. So I will say that whoever gets that job, Taysom Hill, and of course this is not breaking news to anybody, but it seems more so with Taysom Hill, his bond to Kamara is more symbiotic than some might think. So that's my concern.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this since like the start of the off season, and the Michael Thomas news really sucks because it clouds everything. I would hope that Jameis can win. I think that would be the best option, but I think it either goes like 3 ways, where it's a situational type of thing, and both quarterbacks are in for a decent amount of snaps both games, perhaps, or one guy's going to start with the job, see if he can do good, and if he doesn't, he's going to get yanked early. I don't think Sean Payton has much of a good answer as to what he wants to do, because they gave that money to Taysom. He loves Taysom for whatever reason. It doesn't make sense to any of us, but for some reason he just loves him. And I think we all want Jameis to win, but I have a stupid gut-wrenching feeling that Sean Payton is going to pretend that he's a genius and just think he can turn Taysom Hill into Drew Brees 2.0.
Oh man, I got the same feeling, man, because it seems like it makes the most sense to start Jameis,
Yeah.
But like you said, for whatever reason, he loves Taysom Hill, and I don't understand it. Like, yeah, he can do a bit of everything, but that's where his strength is. You don't need him to play quarterback because you have one. You have one that's cheaper. Go let Taysom Hill play tight end, or go let him play wide receiver or running back, or use him in the goal line situations. Go ahead and let him do all of that. But when you need your quarterback to deliver, that's why you got Jameis Winston there. And like LP said earlier, Hill and Kamara's fantasy they're going to feed into each other, because when you get to the goal line or you get in the red zone, you're in the 10. Guess what? Now Hill is out there. He has an opportunity to steal goal line carries from Kamara. I don't like that. I don't need that from my quarterback. Can Winston do the same thing? Yes. He can scramble, he can use his legs. He's not, God likes fast like Lamar Jackson, but he can scramble. But that's not his game. He's not known to have eight rushing touchdowns in a season. He can get out of trouble, use his legs. He's not really going to use his legs in the goal line. I don't remember him ever having, a rushing season where he was like 700 yards rushing and 6 or 7 touchdowns. That's not what Jameis Winston does. He wants to move from the pocket. He wants to deliver. He wants to throw the ball. He wants to throw touchdowns. That's what he wants to do. Hill, yeah, I can throw a touchdown. But guess what? If I'm under the 5 and Alvin Kamara's back there, we're going to do a direct snap to Taysom Hill. He's going to run up the gut for a touchdown. I don't need to see that. Because if I got Alvin Kamara and I'm a fantasy manager and I have Alvin Kamara and I drafted him in a top 4 fantasy pick, I want him to get all the carries. I don't need him splitting time, because they could they get into the goal line twice. They scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Guess what? Taysom Hill got both. I don't need that. I didn't draft him that high for that. So yeah, I agree. They're too close together in terms of fantasy symbiosis. I don't need that headache. Put Winston in, let him get the job done. And they've been talking up the young boy Marquez Callaway recently in camp. He's been doing some damage because he's getting a lot of work with I think Traquan Smith is hurt, or he's dealing with something. Chris Hogan just got there and he's hurt. So it's like they don't have anybody to throw the ball to. So Marquez, and I think I said this last time too, I wasn't sure who well, no, I don't think I said this because I don't think at the time Michael Thomas was hurt. But I wasn't sure if you should go out and target those guys, Marquez and Traquan, because we don't know what the quarterback situation is. If you're willing to gamble, if you are doing dynasty or maybe you got your redraft really early, Marquez Callaway at the very least should be one of your top late round targets. He should be a guy that you can take a dart throw on later on in the draft, because we still don't know how that situation is going to shake out. But if we hope that Winston gets the job, Marquez is going to be the man. And actually, I was doing some digging before we came on, and let me see where I got this at. Mr. Nick Underhill. Oh man, this is stupid. My thing didn't update. But New Orleans.football's Nick Underhill was talking about the camp situation between competition between him, Winston, and Taysom Hill. And he said on August 2nd that Winston's been looking like the better quarterback so far in camp. So, and he's completed at least 70% of his passes with the first team. Hill was around 64%, and I think I retweeted it. So far, if that's and that's marginal because it's still early in camp, but it looks like Winston has the lead. Hopefully, Sean Payton, like Tom said, Sean Payton doesn't think that he's a genius, and he goes, "Oh well, you know what? It's nice that Winston's got the lead, but I'm still gonna go with Hill." Hopefully, he recognizes Winston's work and they give him the job.
You know what's funny when you brought that up, and guys, I'm sorry, I'll have all my notes with me from last time, but that's a good point you make about these coaches kind of trying to outfox themselves and outthink themselves. And we talked about it before the show started as far as our leagues in dynasty, redraft, and we've been playing fantasy for how long, guys? Like 10 years, 12 years now?
Yeah, about that long.
You know what's a wild thought though to think about? For those years since we started playing fantasy till today, these coaches, Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, they've had the same quarterback, Mike Tomlin, the same quarterback for this long. So it's funny now as we see them having to go in another direction with quarterback and how that weighs when we do dynasty leagues and think about what happens in fantasy. Like these quarterback retirements that are going to happen sooner than later. Roethlisberger finally saying no, Rivers being out. These big quarterback retirements are going to change vastly the fantasy landscape, not just the NFL, but largely at whole, you're going to see something a lot different. So it's going to determine really what is Sean Payton now without Drew Brees. how do they execute their offense? Is it going to be Taysom Hill? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? I think we all wanted to be Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston wants it to be Jameis Winston more in a colorful way because we know how Jameis Winston is. I just think we're going to think a lot differently of what these coaches are and what these players are in Dynasty as we get along, just based on these huge shifts in quarterbacks leaving the NFL. I think that's going to change a lot, man, a lot.
One more
Yeah,
thing.
we're
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
we're
Go ahead,
already
Tom.
we're already kind of starting to see that with like the new blood coming in. But like going back to the Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston thing, like if I'm Sean Payton, with Michael Thomas out, I'm starting Taysom Hill at H-back or like an outside tight end that plays in the slot or a slot receiver and having Jameis play quarterback because Taysom Hill is a gadget guy, kind of similar to like a Brad Smith was for the New York Jets, where he can kind of throw, he can run, he can pass, like he can kind of run routes, he can run the ball rushing, he can do multiple things, and that way it's an added layer to the dynamic, which I think would be the route. Like if I was the coach, that's what I would do, because Jameis is the more conventional passer, but having Taysom on the field at the same time, but not as the quarterback, opens up an interesting dynamic. But when you hear Taysom Hill saying that the team told him that they want him to train in the offseason solely as a quarterback, that's where I have my concerns.
Sounds terrible. That sounds awful. Sounds
Yeah.
awful. And I do think you eliminate the effectiveness and the element of surprise goes out the window. Even honestly, I think even if both of them on the field together, that's still what does it pigeonholes Taysom Hill. It's like I'd rather have a receiver out there. And hey, man, no disrespect to Brad Smith whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yes, legend, no disrespect. I'm just saying it pigeonholes what your potential actually is because now that I don't have to account for Taysom Hill in the backfield holding the ball, where he can actually, as we say in basketball, triple threat of being able to run, pass, or hand it off. Now that he can't do that, and you're a receiver lined out wide or in the backfield, that again minimizes what your impact is. So again, it's almost like, if you want a quarterback that can do quarterback things, why don't you just play a quarterback? It's like the most obvious answer is the most logical one. But I agree with Thomas. I feel like they're gonna smash your head against the wall and say, okay, it's gonna be Taysom Hill. It makes no if it doesn't make sense to us in this pod, if we don't get it, what do you think players in the locker room think? What do you think GMs think? Like I'm sure people are laughing around the league like they're really gonna play Taysom Hill a quarterback. It's
I hope if they do that, I hope it blows up in their face. Because
Yeah,
that's
same.
stupid.
Yeah.
And deservedly so. If it does, deservedly so. But this, man. It's weird because now I feel like taking Kamara high just to sell him high. I feel like taking Kamara, and I'm gonna get him and I'm gonna sell him. I'm gonna sell him right away because I feel like that's a volatile stock now with Alvin Kamara, because whatever gadget they're gonna implement, like you said, once you take away Taysom Hill, once you put Taysom Hill in there, you take away Kamara's value as a red zone threat. That becomes problematic to me too. Very problematic. And I don't even know how that affects the tight ends either. I don't know what that means for Troutman either. I have no idea where to go with that. I don't know if you guys thought about that either. I'm stuck there. I'm really stuck.
Well, my thing is when you look at the division, and I always look at the division first before I look elsewhere in terms of fantasy, because they're going to see those guys the most. You got Tampa Bay coming in, and they're like, the Death Star of the NFC at the very least, if not the whole NFL. You got to go up against them twice in a season, maybe 3 times, depending on how that schedule. I didn't look, but are you going to sit here and tell me that if a shootout happens or you'll go down in the scoring, that Taysom Hill is going to be the guy to bring you out of it? If I'm Tampa Bay's defense and I see Taysom Hill out there, I am going to glow. I'm going to pin my ears back, and we're going to run roughshod all over that offensive line. They probably going to be blitzing all day. Yeah, go ahead. Let's see Taysom Hill try and beat us in the pass. I dare you.
Hey, man,
I feel disrespected if I see Taysom Hill out there.
I'm dropping 8. I'm dropping 8. I'm gonna make you throw it. Go ahead. Pick any spot. Read this whole defense.
You got 2 seconds though. That's all you get. Then we on you. Nah, at least with Jameis, you have a shot, and that's a stretch just because it's Tampa Bay. But I don't know, man. And then, one more thing, and I'm gonna stop talking. Why do you keep clowning Jameis, man?
What do you mean?
They had him running through the barricades, holding the ball. He went in sideways, and it was like it went viral.
Bro,
Why
why'd they
do that
have
to
him in
him?
that drill? Why'd they have him in that drill, bro?
Yeah, I don't get that, man. It's like he's just they treating him like a clown, and I kind of get it because he's done it to himself before, but I was like, all right, that's old. Like he's not eating W's no more. Like let the man live a little bit.
The thing with him is, man, he's become like that Chris Bosh figure, where he's also in on the joke.
Yeah.
He knows he's in on the joke, so he kind of plays up to it too. So like they can't take him seriously because he plays around also. He's funny, you know what I mean? So that's and he ain't different. Him, Dwight Howard, same kind of guys where they just they look for it. So it's funny, man. I mean, but no, I do think he's motivated to play well. I think he wants a job, and I think they should give it to him. And we talked about it last time. If he blows up, anyone blows up. Like, because they're both on 1-year deals, I think. I think both are on a 1-year deal. So whoever blows up, they know what that means to themselves, man. And I think the reason why you want Jameis too, and we just talked about Denver and talked about all their weapons on offense. It's funny when you look at that juxtaposed to New Orleans. Like, it's not that stacked anymore, especially with no Michael Thomas. It changes a lot. So you have to almost say Jameis because he gives you the puncher's chance. He'll probably get knocked out a few times, but he'll give you a puncher's shot. And I think that's speaking to Thomas's UFC side here, but that's really what you're looking for. So it's like you really want to see that. I think that's should be your objective is like, look, we got a lot of teams to fight against. And like you said, look at the division. Look at Carolina. Carolina's going to come out with crazy blitz looks this year, and I want to see Taysom Hill figure this out. I want to see him read these defenses that come at him. So, nah, man. I mean, we definitely all want to see James Winston get that job.
I can't wait to see that Taysom Hill versus Sam Darnold game. That's gonna be epic.
Oh God.
Oh
I might
yeah,
skip that one. Yeah,
it's gonna be
I might
epic.
skip that.
You get to see Sam Darnold chucking it all over the field against Taysom Hill. Goose arm Taysom Hill. Yeah.
We need mandatory blackouts, man, just for that. Mandatory.
And like, what happens? Like, y'all heard that Michael Thomas like didn't report to the team or something about his injury. Like he ignored Sean Payton and the Saints for like 4 months or something like that. And then like how is that gonna work going forward? You know, like is it gonna be a problem there now too, where they might have to move on from him? And then what do you do with your core? You need like a real quarterback to like lead in your next core group of guys. Does anybody feel comfortable? Like, we've already talked about it. Nobody feels comfortable with Taysom Hill with the wide receivers they got now, and even with Michael Thomas. And you take away Michael Thomas, and it gets even worse. So why wouldn't you go with Jameis? You know, just go with Jameis.
You looking at a rebuild. If they move on, if
Yeah.
you move Michael Thomas, you don't have a quarterback. Like LP said, y'all they're on 1-year deals. You don't have a quarterback. You move your best wide receiver because he's a knucklehead. Rebuild. I mean, the next couple of drafts, you got to find a quarterback. You got to rebuild your wide receiver core. I mean, you may not have to do too much with your offensive line, and your defense is kind of solid. So it may not be a total rebuild, but you're probably going back to the bottom of the division just because you're starting over at quarterback. That's rough after having Drew Brees for that long.
I think that's the issue, man. They didn't have a backup plan. And it's weird. It's weird when you think about it. And I know we're here talking fantasy, but when you think about football, like from a 360 perspective, when you lose a franchise quarterback like that, it's been a fixture for not 20 years, but it's since 05 or 06. It changes a lot, man. And now you have a new changing of the guard. My problem when it comes to Michael Thomas, and I'm not saying that he doesn't have a point of perhaps trying to force his way out, because maybe he does. But when these players, and you guys can tell me, we talked about guys with unhappy contracts all off season, a lot. I almost feel like it's been more than usual. So I mean, I think one of the things now with sports and sports across the whole kind of getting mixed together, we're giving people voices, is that these players, once their ink is dry, especially NFL guys, they can start pushing and forcing their way out. And we talk about a lot with quarterbacks. I mean, but even Michael Thomas, he's been paid. He can figure out, I don't want to be here anymore. And he might know, okay, this is a bad scenario. And he might know he's not there, but someone is probably telling him, hey, look, man, they're going to start Taysom Hill. You might not like that. So he might know what's going on. And I think maybe that's the deal. And guess what? If he is moved, yeah, it's a rebuild. Because I don't think they're not good with cap space either. I think they're pretty hurt with cap space too, and still figuring that part out. So I think it's bad. And maybe they're kind of in denial of what's going on. But when you look at the resources they've burned to acquire guys like Marcus Davenport, like, who's a good player, it's just like, man, I think to them, they haven't hit, like, reality hasn't struck, like, we're in trouble. And you're going to talk about the last 15 years of Drew Brees, and you have one ring to show for it. They underachieved. Period. Point
I
blank.
don't get no argument from me. I mean,
Yeah.
I get chewed up in these kind of debates because it's like, oh, Drew Brees is so great. Aaron Rodgers is so great. They don't do anything wrong. They're perfect. They're one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They got a ring. Yeah.
They got a ring on the back of what? On the back of their what?
What, their defense?
There you go. There you go.
Or it's, they can do it by themselves. So they did it by themselves. I don't know. I'm not going to get sidetracked on it.
All right.
I'm venting. But yeah, man, when we recap this, if we had to, I think most of our picks is kind of straightforward. For the Broncos, we want Teddy Bridgewater. For the Patriots, we want Cam Newton. And for the Saints, we hope is Jameis Winston.
We all want Cam for New England?
Well, I know I do. For Cam this season, yeah. I don't think Mac Jones is ready. I don't think he's going to get the opportunity if Cam is playing well. And I think Cam's going to start the season to begin with anyway. So you get like I said, you get the defense back. You got pieces in place to play Cam style of football. You're going to be running the ball a lot more. Cam's still deadly around the goal line with his legs. And then you're going to be using Damian Harris too. Yeah. You don't have to rush Mac Jones.
I mean, I say a lot, but like you guys know, man, I'm avoiding Patriots players like a grocery store at COVID time. So I'm good. Don't worry about that. I'm fine.
He said 6 feet, son.
Nah.
6 feet. Mask up 6 feet. No, but that'll bring the episode, our very first League Winners Roundtable, to a close. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the show. Actually, I should be thanking LP Cruz for bringing us in, because he want to play the back. He want to be the organizer, but he don't want to take no clout for it. So I'm gonna give him his clout, because he made it happen.
Nah, guys, thank y'all, man. For real, thank y'all for agreeing to this. I appreciate y'all.
Not a problem,
Thanks
man.
for bringing me on, bro.
Anytime. We should do this one more time before the season starts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, let's do a couple of these.
He asking. He asking already.
I mean, just saying. But that'll wrap it up for this episode. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell. If it's on YouTube, hit the bell so that you get every notification for when the show pops up, so you don't miss an episode. Check us out next time.